Welcome to RTRO REGEN. Today we'll talk about a few topics related to the nostalgia of gaming and the tropes that we'd like to see return. Not really tropes, some features that we'd like to see return in the gaming industry. I have with me the same two comrades. I'm Neon, by the way, and I have Leo and ALLMIGHT. So I'll give it to ALLMIGHT first.
Hey everyone. So I'd like to start is that those old games where you'd be like, I have a quest and I have to complete this quest, and after I've completed this mission and quest, I'd be awarded, and for that award I'd be I'd be happy. Like example, you're playing fighting games. First of all, in the early fighting games, in order to unlock a new character, you would have to finish a specific character's story, and then you'd unlock a new character. So basically, what I'm saying is that the give and take reward system, that I want that to return, cause it excites the player, and it motivates them to do better and go further along.
And that also gives the players the incentive to play new characters that they might be better at using than the previous character that they used to make.
Yeah.
That's something that they give you a more different and big perspective than before.
Yeah. Well, so what about you, Neon?
So the one thing that I really want the game industry to...
It doesn't have to be one. It can be many things.
Yeah, okay. So one of the things that I want return to the game industry is good FPS campaigns. Like
yes.
It's been a really long time that we've had a solid FPS campaign. In this decade, the only game that was totally amazing was Titanfall 2. It had an amazing campaign and it was innovative. It was fun to play. It was short and sweet. It was just fun. Like, if you haven't played it yet, go buy Titanfall 2. It's probably for $2 or $5 on Origin, and play it. It's hands down the best campaign of this decade. But my point is that we haven't had a really good FPS campaign for a long time. A real long time. Like Modern Warfare 2 was the last time, and even Black Ops 1 was a really good game. Both of these were amazing games. But the problem with games now is that most FPS games are focused solely on the multiplayer, and people are even the audience isn't as interested in single player campaigns on military based first person shooter games anymore. I'd like that to return, honestly.
So Far Cry 3 and 4 were also some good FPS campaigns.
Yes, they were good FPS, but I'm kind of talking about the games that are more military based.
Yeah, and for that, even Battlefield 1 was a good campaign.
Yeah, it had a good campaign.
But
yeah.
It wasn't as linear or really as an emotional ride as Titanfall 2 was, as most good FPS military game campaigns would be.
Yeah.
And in that sense, Titanfall 2 takes, I guess, the throne in this one. A feature that I'd like to bring back is, it's not really something that brings more smoothness to the experience. It's actually something that makes it a bit less smooth. But I'd like to have those hard checkpoints that you need to go and activate. It's something that I kind of miss.
Me too, man. I definitely miss those.
Because due to autosave nowadays, it makes you easier. Like, oh, okay, I died at a boss fight, but then before I proceed to the boss fight, I could grab my items or whatever skills I need to defeat the boss. But yeah, I think we should have a checkpoint where you're like, you died. How dare you? Now you deserve to start all over again.
Yeah, and
a lot of old school gamers, they have this thing that now, like, games hold your hand a lot. It's like, oh, you died, let me take you back to the exact place that you died with no major consequence. And so that's something that we really miss.
So One game I like to highlight is the new Resident Evil 2 remake. It had hard checkpoints, like you actually had to go to the typewriter and save it. It also has autosaves, but I turned them. I played it on hardcore on like my first run, and it was an amazing game. And the checkpoints, the hard checkpoints really raise the stakes of the game. Like everything becomes more risky. Like you have limited saves in the hardcore mode, so I didn't save a game because I was saving my saves. I was saving my ink ribbons to use in the typewriter, and I ended up accidentally dying when I hadn't saved for almost 2 hours.
Oof. You deserve it. I didn't save it.
Yeah, but you only have like 11, 12 saves for the whole game.
That's the good part. That kind of stress that you have as a gamer. You're like,
exactly.
Like, oh crap! I forgot to save. I'm just about to go to this next area where I don't know, some army of zombies are gonna come and attack me. I should have saved, and that kind of stress level kind of keeps you reminded. It helps you with your memory, like, okay, I have to save.
It also adds a lot to the experience when you're in that panic, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you used to play on the old PS1 and PS2 and you didn't have a memory card, you'd be like, I need to win.
Like you only had one chance to end the game. And I've been there.
Man, I remember playing Avatar so many times, and one day, one Friday it was, because where I was, Friday was a holiday. And so I'd be like, okay, it's Friday, I've come back, I'm home, I'm awake, time to finish this game.
Yes.
And I reached the swamp part, I guess, in Avatar, The Last Airbender. It was based on book 2. And that after that, my parents were like, do your homework. I was like, fine, I'll do my homework. I played a lot, my eyes are hurting, it's night now, I didn't turn on the lights, I was so engaged in the game. And then I turn it off, I go back to turn it on again, I won't turn on. I fried my PS2.
Wow, damn, man. That's harsh.
I'm like, damn, what do I do now? They're like, we can fix it, but it's gonna break again.
I had the same problem with my PS1. Now, on my PS1, I did have a memory card.
There's also this...
There was a problem with that memory card. Like, back in the day, I believe it was a 8 KB.
MB.
8 MB.
No, 8 KB on the PS1.
On the PS2 it was 8 MB.
Yeah, on the PS2 it was 8 MB. I don't remember exactly, but on the memory card you could only save one game, and so whatever game I wanted to play, I used to save it. And my parents also played the PS1, so they were fans of the Siphon Filter series. I'm also a fan of that series.
Yes.
But that series is dead now, unfortunately. It was an amazing series, by the way.
Here's another problem.
So I'm talking, man.
Oof.
Don't get triggered.
So
Angry Neon.
don't cut me off.
I'm gonna cut you off. Okay?
So
What are you gonna do?
where was I?
What are you gonna do? What?
I'm gonna call the Ghostbusters.
Oh no.
Yes, continue.
Yeah, where was I? So yeah. Like I only had one save game on that memory card, and my parents used to play Siphon Filter, and I couldn't delete that save game. So what I had to do was like Resident Evil 3. Like it was my first Resident Evil on PS1. I used to play that game for like 5 to 6 hours. Back then I was like 5 or 6. I didn't go to school yet, and I had a lot of time, so I played like 5 or 6 hours. And every time I used to die, I had to restart the game. Ooh. So I've been there, and I couldn't die, and I still haven't finished that game. Cool. So I'm just waiting for the remaster so that I can, remake so that I can play it again.
You couldn't see this, but ALLMIGHT just melted when you said Resident Evil 3.
Yes. Now here I'll get to that, but Where the memory card.
By the way, I
Why'd you cut him off though?
Yeah.
Wait, it's funny though. It's funny though. When I used to sleep, I had dreams of Nemesis chasing me because I used to play it so much, and that scared the shit out of me. But yeah, it was fun. I don't know why my parents allowed me to play that game. I think they just didn't know. It was a good game overall, but yeah. I had Nemesis in my dreams and that was fun.
Are you done?
You had fun in your dreams.
Yeah.
You had fun in your nightmares.
Are you done? May I proceed?
Yes.
Alright, so here's another problem with the memory card is that imagine you have these list of games that you saved, and then it says your memory card is full. Delete a few games. That's also an issue. Now,
exactly.
It
Neon.
wasn't as bad as the PS1 though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You could only save one game.
But as Neo has mentioned, and Resident Evil 3, absolutely love that game. I love Jill as well. She was,
Yeah, I didn't really like.
Okay, no one cares. But what was
If no one cares, why'd you bring it up?
Exactly.
okay? So
Thirsty boy.
Resident Evil 3. It wasn't just that game. It was like not only the save point, but you also had to do the mercenary mode.
Yeah.
Where if you finish it at a fast-paced time, you'd get these rocket launchers and all that. And I remember playing like with my cousins. Okay, and he used to play Resident Evil like non-stop, literally non-stop, and I would just watch him play because it was such an amazing game. And still, I have to be like, I'm sorry to say this, but I have finished the game.
Oh wow.
On
Don't spoil anything.
on
I do know the lore, but
but on an emulator. I know you'll think a bit of a less of me, but
wait,
yeah,
what?
in an emulator.
Well, that is amazing. That is something I can respect, my friend.
That
Awesome.
alleviates you.
Exactly. I've also played
But-
that on
but-
an
but,
emulator, but I
sh-
didn't. And
Shouldn't we
finish it.
not confess that on a show?
Doesn't matter. It's in the past.
It's in the peak.
I mean, it is a Nintendo.
What?
It's still emulated.
Okay, so
Emulation is cool though.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it ain't, but I'm just saying don't confess that, man.
fine.
I did own the original.
Ignore whatever I said. That was not real.
Yes, it was all a dream.
You
Go
never-
back to sleep now.
You never heard that, okay? You-
Get Morpheus. Get him some pills. Make him forget stuff.
yeah. So, what else do you miss, ALLMIGHT?
Yeah, I guess that's it.
You?
Not much more. Like,
I mean, I miss bosses that weren't bullet sponges. I miss bosses that didn't have predictable patterns. I miss those bosses.
give me an example.
I mean, like, if you go back and play something, like what example can I give you? I've forgotten everything. Let's say like Professor Eggman, right? He'd shift up his patterns. He won't have, even though you'd think that he'd be predictable, he wasn't. In a lot of games, he would be like something you need to figure out how to beat. As you go, you need to figure out what pattern this is.
Yeah.
As you go, and also as in replayability, it's like you can find bosses like these in Deus Ex. Those are good hard
Yeah,
bosses.
they're really-
Those are bosses that aren't just there for your sense of accomplishment. Those are bosses that actually give you a good experience. Deus Ex, the Human Revolution boss, that was a really good. Do you remember that?
Which boss?
It was actually 4 bosses in one.
I do remember, but which one are you talking about? But because
Final boss.
The first one was like you had to shoot him most of the time. You could also use the turrets on him, and then there was that woman,
What I'm talking about is the last mission when you're in Pantea, and by the way, spoilers. If you haven't played it, why?
Yeah, let's keep it to soft spoilers.
Right. So you're in Pantea, and there's this machine that you need to shut down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I know.
You understand the machine.
But
And so there's this lady that's plugged into the machine as well.
oh yeah, it was called the Hydra. No.
Yeah, Hydra.
The Hydra.
Hydra.
Yeah.
It was that.
That was an amazing boss, actually. I do agree.
That was like, not only were there a lot of goons, but also you had to figure out how you're gonna get to the boss, because the whole floor was getting electrocuted. Sections of the floor were getting electrocuted, and you weren't electricity proof. If anything, you were a conductor. You were a bigger conductor than anything, and that was actually refreshing to be able to play something like that. And the sad part is it's actually an older game.
Yeah, it came out in 2011.
So now games just don't care for that.
There was the like Evil Within 1 and 2. They had good bosses. They have really difficult bosses. It was like Evil Within 1 specifically. Like 2, you had a bit. Evil Within 2 was easier overall, but 1 had some of the hardest bosses I've ever gone up against.
And that's why the Silent Hill and Resident Evil and the Evil Within, that's why these games are doing so well, is not only that they have a fad of horror, that they actually make it good, they also have the spirit of all-time gamers.
Yeah.
They give you that, not only that nostalgia, but they also treat it as a feature that's a part of the series and something that they actually innovated.
Like Alien Isolation. That was also an amazing game.
So that's one thing. And something else is that when I pay you 100% of the money, I expect 100% of the game. I don't expect to be treated with a DLC a month later. It's like, this is the full story. Now you give more money. Yeah, it's like, why should I pay 120% for 100%? If I'm paying 120%, I should get 120%, right? I shouldn't have a game that's cut off in the middle, unless it's like for like data sizes, or it's just something that we couldn't fit into the game. That's something I can understand. It's like the Deus Ex Human Revolution director's cut.
Yeah.
It fixed that, but it didn't have that DLC in it to begin with for a fair reason. It was a really lengthy section.
Yeah.
And so you would feel bored at times. So that wasn't in the game. That was justified. But the way game publishers are doing it now is that key moments are cut out from the main game, and then they sell it to you as a DLC.
Deus Ex Mankind Divided also did that. Like Square Enix did that with that game as well. And that was quite disappointing for the franchise.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what killed the reboot of not really reboot, but that's what killed the Deus Ex franchise, honestly.
Something else is the actual story. Is that now you actually barely ever get to see a good story with the games?
I mean, if you look for it, I'm sure you can find, like...
I mean, obviously, but I shouldn't have to look for it. It shouldn't be an inundation of nothingness and me looking through it for something that is actually something.
Have you played Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice?
I'm talking about the AAA space.
AAA space. So Metro has...
Yeah, Metro is good.
It's good.
And Total Warhammer is good, but that's not...
I haven't played the Total War games ever.
I mean, there are obviously good games, but why are the major publishers, major developers not making any good story games?
They care about the profits. That's the problem with the industry.
You can still make profit with this. I mean, we need to stand up against this stuff.
Jedi Fallen Order is coming out.
Yes,
like,
also that's Respawn.
Respawn Entertainment, like they made the original Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, that I forgot its name.
Warfighter.
No. Warfighter wasn't a good game.
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
I believe it was Allied Assault, and then they made the original Call of Duties, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare, and so they do have a great pedigree. I am expecting a lot from it, and then they also made Titanfall 2, so that's that.
Yeah, but that's, you see, again, it's something that except for Jedi Fallen Order, that's not something you have to look for. It's not a needle in the haystack, it is the haystack in a way. It's something that transcends the haystack, I'd say, in a way. Because Star Wars is just such a phenomenon that you don't really have to look for the trailers for this one. But...
laughs in Battlefront 2.
Yeah, alright. So what I mean is that when game developers, they make a game, they actually have to base it on something. And when you deprive them from that, that's really a bad game that they're making.
That's why most of the innovation is in the indie space. Some exclusives also have great stories, but I am talking about games that are available on all consoles, because that should be how it is. Exclusives shouldn't be a thing, honestly.
Gamers should be unified to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. There shouldn't be PC exclusive or console exclusive or Xbox exclusive games, unless we talked about this in our last podcast.
In our first podcast.
Yeah, in our first podcast.
Alright, so another thing is that the balance between the spaces, right? You have the indie and then you have the AAA, but you don't have the AA anymore. It's like they're obscene. It's like they're not that they're obscene. It's like they don't exist anymore.
They kind of do, but the main problem with this logic is how do you name something indie or AAA or AA or A?
In terms of size and budget.
Yeah,
because
sure.
if you're an indie, what happens is that you have a good concept, you have a good squad, a small squad usually, maybe 100, maybe, and
no, like if it's above like 50, I don't think it's technically indie. But technically speaking, indie means that you publish the game on your own without a publisher.
right. So that's one thing that's the kind of person, that's the kind of development team that you can call independent. And then there's the AAA, that the developer is specifically a developer and publisher is specifically a publisher, and they have these huge teams, these gigantic teams, and they also need to outsource a lot of the stuff. There used to be this balance that there used to also be a lot of things that were AA that are now AAA, which is a good thing that they advanced. But you also need to remember that in the PS2, in the PS3 era, these developers had a rise. A lot of the games that were present in the PS3 were these AA games.
My perspective is the reason why this is the case now is because the gaming industry is huge now. It's like it's bigger than the film industry. It's probably bigger than the music industry, or at least it's the same level as the music industry.
No, it's bigger.
Yeah, okay. So it's a huge industry now. So profits mean a lot nowadays. That's why we have games that aren't that thoughtful or thought provoking. So that's my point.
Yeah, but you see, what I'm trying to say here is you have innovation in indies, you have big concepts in indies, right? And then you have like stale things in AAA. This would be like a good space for AA to give you innovation and like really well developed, well polished games that indies at times are either unable to do, or it's just sucking a lot of souls out of the developers to do that, right? Because of the size mainly. And so when you have a good innovative concept and you have a good amount of developers, you can come up with an innovative game that is also polished.
Like Dying Light and Techland.
Yeah.
I'd say they're kind of AA right now because their budgets aren't that huge.
Some would also argue that CD Projekt Red is AA.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Even though the budgets are huge nowadays, like Witcher had a huge budget, Cyberpunk has a huge budget.
But they started off as AA in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
What?
You got nothing to add?
No.
You got no feature that you want?
Beat 'em ups. I love them.
Okay. So I'll talk about one thing that that's kind of a negative. Like that was a negative. Now, the industry has gotten rid of it.
It started.
Okay. So what was I talking about?
Something that was negative.
Yeah. Okay. So one aspect of games that I really like is that over sexualized females and
Yes.
males. That has been a problem for video games for a long time, but now it's mostly fixed.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Jill Valentine, like the best example is Claire Redfield in the original Resident Evil 2. And in the remake she has more of a utilitarian outfit. She looks like a biker college student. She looks like someone who can't survive the zombie apocalypse.
That's also something they did with Lara Croft in the reboot.
Yeah, they did it with Lara Croft, and there are a lot of characters that feed into this positive change in the
Yes.
industry. Because what I like is realistic characters at the end of the day. If you're making a character and it isn't a cartoon or something like that, it should be realistic. If it's set in a similar universe to our universe, if it has the same physics, then it should be a realistic character. That's my point. And that's something that has really improved in the video game industry over time.
What I think is that I don't want to see your unsolicited nudity on my screen, please.
Yeah.
It's like, especially, I remember there was a time where I could just go and buy a game, and now I really have to look into it. Like, I really need to look into it. Is there something that I don't like in this game? You know, that used to happen a few years ago, but now because of this change, I don't really have to do a lot of that. But I still kind of do it as a good practice. It is a good practice because once that thing that you don't want hits you, you kind of just keep looking into it.
Like DMC.
Yes, please stop. Please stop. Come on.
I remember that day. Like you called me.
Like, dude, you won't believe what happened.
Yeah, and I did tell you that DMC wasn't a good game.
You didn't tell me how it starts though.
I didn't even know how it starts. I just knew that it was a bad game because I played Devil May Cry 3. So that was one of the best Devil May Cries, and I played only that. No other Devil May Cry.
There's one game I think you guys must have heard of.
What?
Dead or Alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
that
we
is
did.
That is the epiphany of what Leon was saying.
Yeah, that shouldn't exist.
But it does.
To be honest, and unfortunately, I saw one of those esports moments of Dead or Alive. They paused the game in the middle of the tournament, and they rotated it in 3D space, and they inspected it, and they were laughing about it.
Damn.
Which was very disturbing. I mean, why?
It was your fault to go on that.
I mean,
side
it was
of the
my fault.
internet.
It was. It should not have downloaded.
You should have just you should have just watched Apex Legends or something.
Like, you could have said Tekken, that would relate more, but okay.
Yeah, okay, it's the
that's
same
still-
thing for me.
But Tekken is less, over sexualized. Like in some way. It's some way.
Laughs in Christie.
And Katrina. And Nina. Probably
Yeah,
Nina.
okay, so Tekken isn't a good example.
Yeah, but they don't allow you to pause and inspect the thing going on.
Okay, let's just end here because
Yes, please.
It's getting weird.
Yeah, it's getting really weird.
Bye now. Go listen to some more responsible people.
Yeah,
How about
exactly. Bye bye.
that? Some mature people.
Haha.
We have a serious podcast. Please listen to us. It's not a podcast. Bye.